Welcome to this explainer. 55. Evolution and Landscapes of English Mass Media. We're going to be unpacking the absolutely fascinating journey of human communication today. We'll be tracing how we transformed from reading specialized, local broadsheets into doom-scrolling those highly personalized, global digital streams we all carry in our pockets right now. It's a massive shift, and it has entirely reshaped how we understand the world around us.
So, how exactly did we get here? Well, today we are going to cover 5 key areas to figure that out. We'll look at the origins of mass media, the contrast between popular and quality press, how to go about decoding journalistic language, the differences in UK versus US broadcasting, and finally, digital convergence. Let's dive in.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, Origins of Mass Media.
Picture this. Before the 20th century, the press really only operated in highly localized, limited territories. But then, two pivotal developments basically collided. You had rapid technological advancements in printing and railways, and right alongside that, the achievement of universal literacy, particularly in late 19th century Britain. Suddenly, boom, you have a massive reading public. But here is the catch. While they were literate, they weren't necessarily intellectually critical. And this created incredibly fertile commercial ground for the first real media magnates to step in. So, the press transformed. It went from being just a tool of internal cohesion for the middle classes into a true mass medium, totally designed to diffuse specific values to huge sectors of the population.
Which brings us to Section 2, Press, Popular versus Quality.
Now, to serve this huge, newly literate public, two starkly different business models emerged, and we still see them today. On one side, we've got the popular press, basically your tabloids. They're all about pushing mass culture and entertainment. Since they rely heavily on direct sales, meaning they literally need you to buy the paper off the physical stand that day, they use what's called iconic language. We're talking big, sensational headlines, massive photos, and vibrant colors that almost create an illusion of reading, even if you're just visually scanning the page. Oh, and plenty of gossip, of course. On the flip side, you have the quality or prestigious press. These prioritize intellectual debate and objective analysis. They're trying to provide broad context for isolated facts, focusing heavily on international relations and operating with a much more cosmopolitan view, rather than just chasing raw daily circulation numbers.
Moving right along to Section 3, Decoding Journalistic Language.
Have you ever wondered how a news article is actually structured to keep you reading? Professional journalism is designed for maximum clarity and absolute brevity. They rely on what's called an inverted pyramid structure. It always starts with the lead, the absolute essentials, the who, what, when, and where. Then comes the billboard, which outlines the main thesis, followed by the development of the story, and finally the kicker to wrap it up. Now, why this specific top-heavy shape? It was originally designed this way so that busy newspaper editors could literally cut an article from the bottom up to save physical page space, and they could do it without ever losing the core meaning of the story. Pretty clever, right?
And speaking of saving space, let's look at how they maximize the impact of those crucial front-page headlines. Journalists rely on a really unique grammar known as block language. It's a highly specialized strategy designed specifically to capture your attention in the absolute minimum amount of space possible.
Because physical space on a printed page is basically premium real estate, grammar words like articles or auxiliary verbs, they get completely dropped. So you don't read, the company will cut jobs, you read, firm to axe jobs. Journalists lean entirely on short, dramatic, phonetically punchy words, things like axe, bid, blaze, or plea. They take up far fewer printed characters than cut, attempt, fire, or request, but they jump right off the page and grab your eye instantly.
And honestly, editors love using clever puns to attract attention too. Take this actual and honestly brilliant famous headline written about a really wet outdoor classical concert performed by the legendary opera singer Pavarotti. The headline read, "Torrential rain in most areas." Obviously playing on the word areas. It's completely memorable, it's punchy, and it perfectly encapsulates the art of a great headline.
All right, let's shift gears to Section 4, UK versus US broadcasting. As our hardware evolved from the printing press to the radio dial and eventually to the television set, the mediums completely transformed. But it wasn't just a change in how we consumed media, it fundamentally changed how information was funded and how it was distributed across borders. And we actually see two drastically different philosophies emerge in the English-speaking world.
These two drastically different philosophies were essentially trying to solve the same broadcasting puzzle. Over in the United Kingdom, they decided to insulate their primary broadcaster, the BBC, from commerce entirely. It's a public service model, It's funded by mandatory annual television license fees paid by households, making it completely free from commercial advertising. In contrast, the United States had a massive geographical problem to solve. To bridge such vast physical distances, they embraced a commercial model. So, from the 1920s onwards, American radio, and later TV, was heavily funded by advertiser sponsorships and backed by massive corporate networks.
Now, what's really interesting is how a public service model, totally free from the pressure of pleasing advertisers, can systematically divide its programming. The goal is to ensure all demographic interests are actually met. Look at this classic BBC radio breakdown. It ranges from Radio 1, which targets youth with popular music, all the way to Radio 4, which focuses heavily on spoken word, news, and current affairs. It's a whole ecosystem designed around democratic service, rather than just commercial demographics.
Which leads us perfectly into our final part today, Section 5, Advertising and Digital Convergence.
Think about how you consume media today. Those traditional, rigid boundaries we've just been discussing between print, radio, and TV, they are entirely blurring. Everything is converging into one unified digital format. You aren't just a reader anymore, or just a listener, or just a viewer. You're a user, constantly interacting with a massive multimedia data stream, and often you're doing it all on a single device.
But this new landscape is a real double-edged sword. On one hand, social media has incredibly democratized content, right? It allows individuals to bypass traditional gatekeepers entirely. And we're experiencing unprecedented globalization, with English really serving as the lingua franca of international media. But on the other hand, artificial intelligence is now driving hyper-personalized content. The sheer speed of this personalized news risks trapping us in isolated echo chambers. We end up only ever seeing information that reinforces the worldviews we already hold.
So, what does all this mean for us? From the first mass-printed broadsheets to the AI-curated video feeds we scroll through today, the medium has always shaped the message. As algorithms increasingly dictate our daily feeds, we have to ask ourselves, how are we developing the media literacy required to actually critically evaluate our own reality? It's something to really chew on. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope it gave you a powerful new lens through which to view the media you're consuming every single day.